All right, so I'm going to be talking about Dragon Age Veilguard one more time. This is going to be a post-mortem about why Dragon Age failed, how it failed as badly as it did, and some of the concerning things I'm seeing under the hood that could have huge ramifications for the games industry going forward. I don't see anybody else talking about this, and I'm not surprised because, I don't know, it's just a pattern I'm seeing, and I'd like to get into it, and I'd like to kind of shine some light on it and see what you guys all think about it because... like I said, it's very concerning to me, especially as someone who wants to make games, as to how to even approach that. Because I don't know. We'll get into it in a minute, but before we get into all of that stuff, gameplay today is Mirthwood. Now, Mirthwood is actually officially out, and this is a game that I reviewed based on the demo a while ago and gave it glowing reviews because it was a very enjoyable game, and now it's officially out. And in fact, you can get it for 10% off. They're having a launch sale. So if you like it, if you play the demo, you like it, and you want to get it, or if you played the demo before from my previous video, you got that 10% off. So go and grab it if you really enjoyed it. It is officially out. It is different than the demo was, and not by much, but there were obvious holes where the story progresses further. That they had to kind of cap off for the demo to keep it more contained into that smaller demo space. But yeah, it's just open world expansive and really cool, and I'm enjoying it tremendously. So I'm going to be making this the gameplay footage for a while going forward here, and probably be plugging it on every video I do for at least the next 2 to 3. But it's not like they're paying me. I'm just putting out a game there that I enjoy, and I'm trying to do this on every video I make because I am a firm believer that indie games are the way forward. Indie and double A are the way forward. So I'm kind of putting my money where my mouth is and picking up some of these indie games, playing them, and showing you guys the ones that I enjoy. So enjoy the gameplay footage, and let's just jump into Dragon Age, which is a game that I don't recommend you go buy and play. So yeah, Dragon Age has been a massive failure. So you can see from here in SteamDB's charts, it peaked out at 89,418 concurrent players, and it's been going down since Sunday. It's been making new lows and new highs, so 65 down to 58, and now down to 53. The lows have been getting lower as well, like I said, 28, 25, and now we're down to 23,000. So it's tapering off rather significantly over the past few days. Now, it doesn't seem like that, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, a month from now, I mean, if it effectively has lost, 30 some odd % of its peak player count in 3 days, a month from now, it's going to be pretty darn low. So you're going to see that curve taper off rather quickly for Dragon Age, especially being an RPG, being a single-player experience. You'd expect that would... keep people engaged for a little longer than this, but apparently it's not. So, not to mention the fact that 89,000 concurrent players is pretty low for a Dragon Age game. The other thing I'm going to point out here is that we do have owner estimations. Now, I don't know how accurate these really are, but I think we're going to go with the standard that I like to do with it, which is split the difference. So, consider that Play Tracker and Gamealytic are high and low. VG Insights is right down the middle. So you can figure 400,000. That's probably a little optimistic. But even then, let's just say it is 400,000 and triple that across, console and other platforms. So you're looking at 1.2 million people own this game. Now, if it was a AA game, 1.2 million sales, that's pretty good. If it was an indie, I would say that that's fantastic. But again, this is a AAA game. It had an estimated $150 million budget, or at least that's the cost of development, and then probably another $150 million for marketing. And that's being generous, so let's call it $300 million. But 1.2 million, let's round up to 2. So 2 million total copies sold. Be very, very generous here at $60 a copy. Let's say Steam doesn't take a cut. Let's say the consoles don't take a cut, so they get the full $60. Well, that's still $120 million in sales. Still short of that $150 million to develop it, let alone market it. So they definitely fell short on this one. And as all sales go, that is a long tail. It's going to drop off quite a lot They've already made the bulk of their sales in pre-orders and day ofs, and now the sales are going to be much lower in the coming days and weeks, and taper off to zero rather quickly because that's just how games are. So this is pretty much where it's going to be. It might be a little higher than that 400,000 / 1.2 million, but even it's probably optimistic to say 2 million total sales. So yeah, it's an abject failure, and they fell short, and they're going to probably pay the price for that because, again, this is a game that is, published by Electronic Arts, I think it is. Let's go up and look. Yeah, Electronic Arts, and Bioware is the studio. So, you can probably expect Bioware to be one of those studio closures. I'd say there's a 50-50 chance of that right now, and at the very least, they're probably going to get some more layoffs or restructuring or what have you because it can't keep going like this. That's just throwing good money after bad, and EA won't tolerate it, especially in this climate. So, yeah, it's a tough, bitter pill to swallow for the BioWare team, but it's their own doing. They've reaped what they sowed, and I guess there's a lot of studios that are doing that these days. But this is a very interesting case, and that's why I want to do this whole post-mortem thing. So let's just go over to some of the reviews, and we're going to jump over to Metacritic right off the bat. Now, Metacritic makes a lot of sense to me because, the official critic reviews, it's an 83. The user score is a 3.8 or a 38 out of 100. So it's very low for the users, very high for the critics. Now, this is not something new. I mean, we see this a lot with games that that are abject failures with the gamers, and those gaming rags that get paid for reviews. They always give it a good review so that they can get that that inside track the next time around. And there's nothing new here under the sun. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And you also see the opposite, where it's not a big studio, so the critics review it poorly, and then the gamers actually get a hold of it and they review it very favorably. So we've seen the opposite too. So this is nothing new. What is new is the Steam reviews. Now, the Steam reviews are in fact mostly positive. You can see here, so I put playtime over 10 hours. I put verified Steam purchasers, and it's 73 of the 14,444. Your user reviews are positive. I call shenanigans, I think. I see some very strange things in these reviews. I saw a number of reviews that were positive, but the actual content of the review was effectively negative. I've seen a lot of profiles like this one is a little suspicious because there's only 2 reviews on this account and it doesn't mention any games under the library. But it could just be that they're hiding that from their profile. Now, I don't know. It just seems very suspicious. Some of these profiles look like empty profiles. They look like bots. I'm not going to say that that's definitely the case. That's definitely happening, but it does seem very suspicious. It also seems like there's more negative reviews popping up than the ratio that they seem to be purporting. So, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that Steam is messing with something on the back end. Maybe Electronic Arts has some kind of pull over them to make sure that this all goes down the way they want it to. I don't know if it's shenanigans or not, or it's just a fact of the way the Steam review process works, and most people just don't bother reviewing it if they don't like it. That could be, it could be just the game angered so many people that they straight up rage quit it and then just never touched it again, let alone reviewed it. So that the vast majority of people that are playing it are noping out and not reviewing it negatively, even because it's just not something they care to do. They're just not engaged enough to be bothered, whatever it is. But yeah, this is a bit of an anomaly because usually when a game performs so poorly, you're going to get negative reviews here, and that's not the case. So it's interesting to see that for sure. Something's going on there. Now, the other potential reason for this is that the game is actually halfway decent, and the wokeness is tolerable enough that the people that did play it actually did enjoy it. And that's another possibility. So it couldn't be not shenanigans. It could actually be that people can put up with the preachiness of the game in those situations that we've all seen online to get past that in order to play the actual game. And it sounds like the gameplay itself, from the reviews that I've read, from stuff I've seen online with people playing it, the gameplay itself is very competent. The cutscenes are intolerable. The art style is not Dragon Age, so it's kind of a betrayal on those fronts. And then the dialogue system is very bland, but the actual game itself seems to be pretty cool. And there are instances where it's truly capturing the spirit of a Dragon Age game, and then a lot of the times that just vanishes and it turns into basically a Pixar style version of Dragon Age, very cartoony, very child friendly style, very snarky humor and all that stuff. And it's not those dark themes. It's not the authenticity of the old games brought forward. So that's the thing that a lot of people are complaining about. But in terms of a game itself, it sounds like the actual gameplay, the combat is very competent. It's very well polished. So maybe that's enough for people to be appreciating it enough to give it a good review. That's a possibility. And with 14,000 reviews on Steam, I would say that's not an unreasonable thing to assume. Now, that also brings me into my next point, which is the bigger picture, the concerns that I have about this whole thing, which is that if, in fact, and I don't know this because I didn't buy it and play it because it's not, it turned me off immediately with all that footage that we saw online, just like it did with all you guys. So I didn't bother buying it and playing it, but I have heard of people that did. I've seen reviews online. I've kind of been doing my research in that respect on this game, just to kind of get an idea of what it actually is about. And if, in fact, it is a very competent game with wokeness injected and getting all preachy and being cartoony, being at least reasonably tolerable for most gamers, or at least the gamers that played it, then we got a big issue here, because this game then effectively failed on the fact that wokeness was injected into it. And that is it. Just because it had cutscenes that were preachy and political and injected with their politics, just because it was snarky humor, it was that CalArt style, California mentality being injected into a Dragon Age game, that was enough to tank this game and basically potentially shut down the studio. So breaking an entire sector of the AAA industry on the basis that there's wokeness in the game at all. Now, do I think that's necessarily a bad thing? I mean, I hate it when people get preachy with me. I am the kind of personality that will fight back against that, even if it's something that I agree with. If you're preachy enough, I'm gonna be a contrarian, even when I agree with you. And this is not something that I agree with, and so obviously I'm gonna be like, knives out on this one. So when they get preachy with me on things that I think are not something I would agree with or appreciate, it's very grating to me. So in that respect, I think, all right, let it fail, I mean, screw them, because I don't agree with it. I don't like it when games get preachy with me. It's intolerable to me. So they deserve what they got. On the other hand, though, I can see a situation where this is going to get very out of hand very quickly. And that kind of gets down to my point, which is we have a whole different industry now. And we have this whole different industry because of the failure of AAA, because of the failure of the mainstream gaming press. They have no credibility. They have lost their ability to reach the gamers, the target audience that they want. They have no ability to sneak these things by us anymore. And for years they were able to. For years they could, subtly suggest these themes and inject them in their games without us having too big of a problem with it. But they got too cocky, they got too preachy, and they decided that their way was the right way, and they were holier than thou, and they just preached from on high with their wokeness down to us, making us feel lesser by the games we play. And that is that's what caused this whole thing to start. And that's what led to the rise of basically citizen gaming journalism. Now, you got a plethora of YouTubers, people on X, people on social media talking about games, reviewing games, discussing the industry, reporting on news, and that is now your new gaming press. And this, I think, proves that, because this game was panned by that group of people, by the YouTubers, by the independent gaming journalists, by the independent gaming media, whatever you want to call them. That group was panning this left and right, and I'm guilty of it too, because I saw these previews, I saw the videos, I saw the clips, and I said, this is not for me, and I unloaded on it too. So I'm just as guilty, and it's something I think all of us that are doing that journalism, that reporting those media pieces, talking on X, talking on YouTube, whatever it is, I think we need to try and find a better standard. Try and apply higher standards to ourselves. And I'm going to do that going forward as well. And this is kind of part of that, I guess, this video, in a way. I want to I want to make sure that I'm being authentic with you guys. I want to make sure that I'm not leading you astray. And when I see something like this happening, I need to talk about it. So that's what we're doing right now. You know what? While we're doing this, let's just go back to this gameplay, because what a great game. This is a good game. So, and I think I'm going to do another video related to good games in the foreseeable future. But, I think we need to have a higher standard of reporting. We need to have a higher standard of talking about these things and discussing them. And it's also something that you guys as gamers, that I as a gamer, need to be more cognizant of too. We need to be taking these things with a grain of salt. We need to actually dig into the game and really figure out if it is as bad as everybody's making it seem. And again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that I think Bioware deserves every bit that they're getting. If they close the studio, if they have layoffs, I mean, they earned what they're getting by the game that they made. And I think they need to understand their target audience a lot better, and that's something we'll talk about too. But I think the flip side of that is we need to report on these things as accurately as we can. We need to be as authentic as we can, and we need to, really be more discerning about these games that come through. And mostly, I would say in terms of AA and indie, because AAA I don't think is going to change anytime soon. But certainly there are indie games out there, and there are AA games out there that are desperate for an audience, that are desperate to get somebody playing their games, and they're doing things that, a lot of you guys would really enjoy, would really appreciate. And I think a lot of you out there would appreciate Mirthwood. So it's something that's I guess one thing that I've actually changed about my videos is I'm trying to put these gameplay videos out there with these discussion points. So when I'm talking about one game, I'm playing footage from another game that I'm really enjoying playing, so you guys have, start seeing more alternatives. Start seeing that there's more out there than just these AAA games that are trying to get preachy with you. There's more out there than that, and this is certainly that. I have not detected a hint of wokeness in this, a hint of preachiness. The people that made this game, I don't get the impression that they think they're better than me, whereas I absolutely get the impression that Bioware thinks they're better than me. So that is the differentiating factor. So that's why I'm trying to be more discerning. I encourage anybody that does YouTube, that anybody that does social media and related to games is also more discerning about this. And you guys that are watching these videos are more discerning. So, for example, like Mirthwood, don't take my word for it and go out and just randomly buy it. Go play the demo. There's a demo out there. Check it out. All that you're going to be spending is your time. And the demo is definitely pared down. There's a lot of things in the real game now that I'm seeing that lead into bigger and better things that are plugged up in the demo that are like blocked off just to keep that demo compact. So, it was something that I noticed, but, now that I'm playing the real game, I know why. So, there were buildings that were closed that were like, oh, well, the reason why that was closed is because it leads to this whole thing. So that's why you couldn't get into that building in the town or what have you. So, yeah, it's it's something we got to be more discerning with. It's something we got to keep an eye out for, and keep looking on Steam for these kind of indie gems, these AA gems, these little games, because they'll appreciate your business a heck of a lot more than AAA does, and they're worth looking into. So, yeah, that's the concerning part about this whole thing. I think we're doing all right. I think we're going to be okay. I think that what's going to end up happening is a lot of these AAA studios are going to keep going down the road they're going down, and they're just going to crash and burn. And I think a few of them are going to change their ways. I really do have some hope that we're going to see some changes in some of these AAA studios. I suspect, boy, I'm really going out on a limb here, but I suspect Todd Howard is going to change his ways. I suspect that the next Fallout game and the next Elder Scrolls game are going to be better. I think they're going to turn a page. I think Starfield was a wake-up call to them, and they're going to change their tactics, and they're going to change their approach, and they're going to focus on things that are important to the target audience that they want to see. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think that's one studio that we can rely on that might actually turn that page and move forward in a positive direction. Bioware doesn't seem to be interested in doing it. I don't think, if we get a Mass Effect 5, which I'm doubtful of, but I don't think that Mass Effect 5 is going to be any different than Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I think it's going to be the same thing. I think a lot of studios are going to go that way. So I think, though, we need to keep that eye on indie. Keep that eye on AA. Keep that eye out for games in those sectors that are not preachy, that are not political, that are not injecting identity politics in everything they do. And I know that you guys have complaints about that too, because there's a lot of indie games out there that are very, very political, very, very preachy, very, very, high on their horse. But there's indie games out there like Mirthwood that are not. So it's just a matter of sorting through that massive amount of games and figuring out which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. And, I'm going to do the best I can. I hope other people join in with that, and we'll find some fun stuff to play. But I think it's a good time to be a game developer right now. So if any devs are out there listening, especially those indies and AA's, get your games out there. I mean, I would love to get my game out there. I don't have the time to work on it, but I'm going to try and make something happen. I'm really trying. It's just, life has been kind of crazy, and the best I can do right now is the social media thing and these kind of videos. But I've been getting back into the dev side of things and trying to get that game out there. And I suggest any devs out there listening, you do the same. Get out there and get it done. 'Cause it's a good time to be an indie developer, I think. It's hard to sell your game. It's hard to find that target audience, but there are a lot of gamers out there that are desperate for something that will, scratch that itch that they're looking for. So, somebody out there want to make a Dragon Age style game, clearly there are people there that are yearning for a Dragon Age game that's authentic. And BioWare can't deliver it, so somebody else should. So go out there and get that done. Get a Dragon Age style RPG out there to get into people's hands. And if you do, hey, you know what? Let me know. Tag me on X. Tell me all about it, and I will do the best I can. I don't have a following worth much, but, my 500 YouTube subscribers and my 100 some odd on X, I mean, I'll try my best. And hopefully others will too. So, I don't know. I'm getting a little preachy now. I'm getting a little off the topic here, so I'm going to kind of call it at this. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the concerning things I see. Some of the good things I see, though, and like I said, just keep looking for those good games. They're out there, and, you're just going to have to weed through a whole lot of AAA preachy nonsense to get at them. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.